All right, so there's been a lack of support, I guess, or endorsements from Democrats nationally. And I was just curious about why that may be and how, if that has
Yeah,
affected your fundraising or your campaign at
right.
all.
Well, we've got to look at it from 30,000 feet. So Thad Cochran resigned in March of this year, 2018. So all of these other candidates, and they may be Democrats, Senate, and they may be endangered. So they've had 2 years or even 6 years to prepare for their races. So they were already out there in the field, and we got started late due to Thad Cochran's resignation and his illness. So we've actually had to scramble from ground zero, from scratch, if you will. But now we're really pleased that during this third quarter financial report, every candidate, every quarter has to report how much they've raised. So we raised $1.167 million in basically from July through September 30. That's pretty good for the state of Mississippi. And I'm even prouder of the fact that of that $1.167 million, almost 87% of it came from low dollar donors, people giving $100 or less. So it really shows, where some other candidates have had the opportunity to receive money from large corporations and PACs. Most of our money has come from the people, people actually writing $100 checks, and that's really where you want to be. As far as the National Democratic Party, they are paying attention, right? Now they are pivoting from all these other races, and they're pivoting toward us. So we are receiving support from them, receiving help from them, receiving donations from them. It could be more, it could be at a higher threshold, but I think they'll come through.
I've been hearing a lot about
Excuse
the
me.
Democratic momentum in Mississippi. Kind of talk about that. What is it that you're seeing? I know you mentioned, even with the fundraising, that says a lot.
It says a lot. It says it all. It says it all because in our first quarter, we only raised about $300,000, and $100,000 came from me, right? So people didn't know me. They didn't remember me. They didn't have a chance to review our positions on health care, on education, on pre-existing illness, on the closure of rural hospitals, on criminal justice. People, I haven't run in 20 years, right? So I had to get out there in front of the people and have them refocus on me and what I've been doing over this period of years. So now I think they have. And so the small dollar donations that I mentioned, that's really how you gauge interest. So someone who gives $100 is someone who's going to vote, right? So whereas someone who maybe give you $100,000, they may not because they've given $100,000 to someone else. So I like where we are. I see it in the polls. We're leading in the polls right now. So I see it in the enthusiasm of the people that I talk to when I shake their hands. They grip my hand tighter. They look me in the eye. They ask questions. They commit to voting. So that's really what you want. So I think it's taken a while for us to build up momentum, but I think momentum is on the rise. I'd like to see it more robust, and we've got 21 days, so we're out there in the field door knocking and canvassing and doing everything that a campaign should do. So I think we're going to get there.
You mentioned just your past political experience, and I want to kind of talk about that
Yes.
as well. So you served as the 25th United States Secretary of Agriculture from 1993 to 1994.
Served 2 years.
2 years. So considering that, so much has changed since then, obviously. And for those who may question whether or not you can handle the current political climate, how would you respond to that?
Well, the current political climate is why I'm running. I'm running for that reason. When I look at Washington today, I'm really, really concerned. There's so much dysfunction, so much chaos, so much incivility. There's so many cases where the senators are turning on each other rather than to each other. We wake up in the morning and we see all of these tweets that are sometimes very born out of ill will. When someone is mocking someone or giving someone a name, and that's not positive. It's not helpful, and it doesn't promote what we need in the country. So, when I was there as Secretary of Agriculture and when I was there as a member of Congress for 6 years, we fought hard as well. You know, when they shut that door, when we were in those committee meetings, we fought hard. You know, we fought hard for the interests of our constituents. But the difference is, I think, is that when the gavel came down and the door was opened, we went to dinner together. We went to church together. We spoke about one another's families. We had a genuine interest in the other person because we didn't think that the other person had nothing to offer. We didn't think that that the ideas they offered had no value just because they were from the other party. And that's what I believe. So I believe that I could work with everyone. No matter if it's a good idea, if it comes from the Republican side, I'm going to embrace that idea. If it's a good idea, if it's positive, and if it's helpful for Mississippi, I'll embrace it. But the reverse is true. If it comes from the other side and it's improper or something that's unhelpful or just wrong, right? I'm going to oppose it. So that's the difference. I look at ideas for ideas' sake and not based on who generated the idea. That's the difference in me and the current political atmosphere today. And I really think that people long for that. People are exhausted with the acrimony and the incivility. People are really tired of the mean-spirited tweets. They're just tired of it. And I see it in our polling, I see it in the fields, and I think someone like me bringing the spirit of cooperation, you know, is something that they will welcome and that they are really inviting. I'm a Democrat, and I'm a Democrat. I'm proud of that, but at the same time, I'm a small I independent Democrat. So I believe that Democratic Party does not have a stronghold on good ideas. So it just depends on where the idea come from. I'll reach across and I will bring over Republicans and sit down, shut the door, and really talk about what's going on. And then when the door opens, we'll go to dinner.
You mentioned polls, and I definitely want to ask you about that. Some polls, they show you and Cindy Hyde-Smith, your opponent, neck and neck. Some show that you're leading. Talk about why you should win this over Cindy
Well, I should win this because I'm the better candidate. People always, first of all, go to experience. Is he experienced? She experienced? We don't want somebody new. We don't want somebody who is overcome with the experience. We don't want someone who hadn't been there before. Well, look at me. I've been there before. I served in the Mississippi Delta, the poorest county in the poorest state, and I served well for 6 years. I started out getting 85% of the African American vote in the 2nd District and 11% of the white vote. But when I left there, excuse me, after being elected to my 4th term, I was getting 95% of the black vote and 40% of the white vote. So why is that? Why would that be such a difference when Mississippi is so racially polarized? The difference is service. The difference is someone who doesn't care what race you are, what party you are, or your sexual orientation, or your religion, or your party. I don't care. I care about serving them just as I did those 6 years, and I want to serve them in the U.S. Senate. So the difference is simply experience. I served as a member of Congress. I served as Secretary of Agriculture. So what is that? Agriculture in Mississippi is #1 industry, #1. It still is. And I was the nation's highest authority in agriculture for 2 years. So the farmers remember me. They remember that I negotiated the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, which brought increase in their revenue and their bottom line. They remember that. And they know that I know the federal issues, not the state issues, excuse me, but the federal issues. So if you ask me why me over her, I'll just simply say to you that I'm a better candidate because I've got more experience. And I believe in the things that affect them the most. And here's the one that I think is the #1 issue in this campaign. Mississippi is a state where rural hospitals are closing. And I just read a newspaper article this morning about one maybe closing in the Mississippi Delta. So why is that? It's because this state did not accept the Medicaid expansion money when it was offered. I think that's wrong. I think we should have accepted that federal money because we could keep these rural hospitals open. We could keep the access being offered to patients, and we could keep the economic development in these rural areas going, simply because we didn't accept that. I think that's causing a lot of these rural hospitals to close. Here's the second one, and here's the difference. In the Senate last week, there was a vote to basically keep the insurance companies from denying claims for pre-existing conditions. So what does that mean? So the insurance companies won last week. So when someone has diabetes or hypertension or heart disease or cancer, they've got to prove that they got that illness and that disease after they took out that health policy. Now, come on now. So I believe in mandating that insurance companies cover these claims even though the illness or the condition may have been pre-existing. That's a big, big, big deal for Mississippi. And she voted against it. And it failed by one vote. So I'm saying that she voted against Citizens Mississippi. So when you ask me why her, I'm saying she's voting against the interests of Mississippi. I'm the better candidate because I'm experienced and I've got the better values that Mississippians care about.
Earlier you mentioned healthcare and education, and
Yes.
I want you to, just take this time also to talk about your main focuses in this race and why they are important.
Those three, and I've already explained them. Healthcare is number one because we have so many healthcare issues in Mississippi. We have obesity, hypertension, heart disease. My own sister died of lung cancer, excuse me. So I'm very sensitive to the illnesses in Mississippi that are so prevalent, and it's something I really care about. So I care about these rural hospitals closing because these hospitals represent the lifeblood of these rural communities. So that's why that has got to be the number one issue. And within the area of healthcare, the fact that the insurance companies now are able to deny these claims for pre-existing conditions, that's bad. That's awful, because nobody who's a private patient can prove, really, that whatever illness they have was after the insurance policy was came into being. So it's awful. So that's health and education. We didn't speak a lot about that, but we all know that the pathway to economic mobility is through the classroom. We know that there's a direct correlation between the degrees you get, or the education graduating from high school and graduating from college. We know that there's a direct correlation between that and what you're going to make later on in your life, how well you're going to do. We know that. So it's simple. We've got to get more students staying in school. We've got to get more students graduating. We've got to make sure that they graduate without inordinate amount of debt. We've got to make sure that we can stop this brain drain, that when they graduate from these great schools that we have in Mississippi, that they can go immediately into a job that's got some relationship to the classes that they attended and the degrees that they have. So that's education. And I promise that what I want to do is to do all I can do to help make at least the first 2 years of college affordable or even free. We talk in our campaign about technical schools and community colleges, making them free, at least 2 years. And then if you have student debt, if you agree to take some time and teach in Mississippi Delta and West Jackson, or doing something that's commensurate with lifting up everyone, then we're going to mitigate your debt. We're going to reduce your debt by the time you spent serving others. So we talk about that. And then economic development, well, that's just key. We have to have better infrastructure, fixing these potholes and repairing these bridges. We got to make sure that that the companies coming in can offer something to millennials. And some of these things you can do through legislation, and some of these things you just have to do just through plain old networking. So in my years out of elected office, I believe that I have the proficient network of people that I can call to come in here and talk about maybe a business here, discussing a new plant there. I was county attorney for rural county that was predominantly African American, predominantly black, predominantly Democrat. And I was the lawyer for a county that was predominantly Republican, predominantly white, and maybe upper income. So I know I can balance the needs of every county in Mississippi because I've served two that are polar opposites. So they all need the same thing. They need better education, they need better infrastructure, and they need better health care. That's why I'm running.